Hello and welcome to another episode of Hospitality Talks. And today I'm absolutely delighted to be joined by Adam Rowledge, who is keynote speaker on organisational culture and employment engagement. Adam, welcome. Could you give anyone out there watching just a brief introduction to you and who you are and what you do?
Thanks, Katy. Nice to be back again. So essentially, I stand on stages and talk to audiences about how they can create great workplace cultures, inspire their teams, and have an engaged workforce to achieve fantastic results.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much for joining me today. I think what we want to discuss today is the rising staffing crisis in hospitality, and I know that's something that you really focus on within your work. What do you think we need to be doing? I mean, we talk a lot about getting new staff into hospitality. I'm not sure we talk enough about keeping existing staff. How do we focus on that, and what do we need to do to ensure that our staff aren't going off to be DHL delivery drivers or going, into grocery stores and working there?
Absolutely, and it is a bit of a leaky bucket situation, as you say. So I think that problem has always been there, but really been exacerbated by the pandemic, when people didn't have any choice but to do those jobs. And I think there's a variety of things that we need to do as businesses in the industry to be able to retain those team members. Some of them are very simple, like actually recognizing all of those businesses from those different industries that you've just mentioned as our competitors for talent, rather than just thinking about the next five-star hotel or the next fast casual restaurant down the street, and actually really focusing on what our employee value proposition is, what it is that we need, in creating a culture for that, and focusing kind of relentlessly on delivering that, and understanding really that just in the same way that you would with marketing a product, you have those kind of hygiene factors, the absolute minimums that we need, but then you've also got the differentiating factors that are going to differentiate you. And if you're paying minimum wage, you're obviously not sort of hitting the hygiene factors now, which is a reality that the industry has been in for some time.
I think you're right, and I think we have had that issue because of the pandemic, where people have gone off and gone into these other roles, whether it's in retail, whether it's in delivery, etc. And we're struggling to get them back because they realize how hard work hospitality is. And if we're expecting people to work so hard in our industry, we've got to make sure that we are remunerating them accordingly. Do you think that the industry has a bit of an issue with that perception piece, with that idea of what is the hospitality industry? Because we've recently run some research, and I think the figure was somewhere around 28% of people said that they would be happy if a younger family member took a job in hospitality. And that's an appalling figure. Do we think we've got a perception issue here?
There is definitely a perception issue. I think that is changing to some extent, though, because I think as we've changed sort of culturally, and people are eating out more and having those sort of weekend breaks and all that sort of thing, people do recognise that there is a bit more about it than that. I know we're going to discuss a little bit later some of the maybe the more negative publicity, should we say, that the industry has received in recent years. But actually, there are a lot of great things, and I think we are, through Springboard and a lot of the other activity that's taking place, really getting through the message that there are a lot of opportunities in the industry. Just going back to add to that sort of first question that you asked, really, obviously pay is just kind of one part of that. We need to create places where people are happy to work and feel fulfilled, that we actually meet their needs. And being a delivery driver, certainly for me, would fulfill a need, which would put money in the bank account. But there are a lot more things that we can be doing to actually create that sense of fulfillment that people have, from investing in their development, creating a happy place to work, looking after their well-being, which helps them with challenges, obviously, both in and out of work. So I think those, like, a more holistic approach is what's needed to make sure that we actually keep people in our businesses and in the wider industry.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the wider industry, it is such a fantastic industry to work in, but we do need to maybe be better at PRing ourselves. And, the guys at Hospo Rising, led by Mark McCulloch, have had this fantastic idea of almost rebranding to the outside world the hospitality industry, taking a leaf out of the Army Be the Best book, about sort of PRing that a role in hospitality is a good career choice. What do we think about that? What are your thoughts on Hospo Rising and this area of marketing the industry?
I mean, I think it's a fantastic idea, and and obviously Mark is a fantastic person and is very well placed to do this. I think it's a great idea to have, and I think the I don't know the word I'm looking for is, but the kind of the idea behind the scale of it, I suppose, is the important thing, because if we are going to solve this, we are going to have to think big and do things differently. If you always do what you've always done and all that sort of thing. And we've been doing that obviously for decades, if not generations. So definitely the right thing to be doing, but it's a bit of a combination of an attack, if you like, that's needed on the problem. One, that big piece that Hospo Rising is tackling about the industry and getting that message out there in a really big and positive way, but also for individual businesses to take on the same kind of approach on a smaller scale by both thinking like marketeers and also using some of the techniques that they use to really hone what it is that they are trying to offer, and being able to communicate that to the talent audience.
And talking about taking the idea of hospitality being brilliant out to the rest of the world, we have an issue with some companies, specifically in hospitality, who have been called out recently for issues around bullying or unsafe workspaces, etc. That's still going on. How do we eradicate that, and how important is that being eradicated to us getting better and more focused and positive hospitality staff?
Definitely. So I think the other kind of key thing there to think about is the fact that unfortunately, certainly for this campaign, it's less sort of focus on the rest of the world, since obviously the Brexit situation. So again, a reason why businesses really cannot afford to underinvest in this. And by underinvest, I don't mean just splashing out lots of cash. I mean really focusing their efforts on it as well. But I think the bullying situation in the unsafe workplace, there's been so many examples, as you say, and it's been going on for many years. And as I said to you recently, and I was asked to comment on this a few years ago, and it's still happening. The problem doesn't seem to be going away. So as leaders in business, we need to take responsibility for this. And I say we, like I'm still operating, but it amazes me how you'll see someone advertise for a role and say it's this, and this, but in other posts that they're doing, they'll be talking about situations that have happened at work, the fact that they've just done 5 AFDs in a row, and then obviously not really sort of getting the situation that they need to be tackling the situation, but also presenting it in a very positive light as well. And it's really about leaders working together to really clamp down on all of this stuff, because one of those key things, everyone's pretty familiar with Maslow, I'm sure, is that kind of that safety and security is an absolute need. And if people don't feel safe and secure at work, then they're sure as I'm not going to come to work, and they'll leave the industry, because that kind of idea of, well, it's like this here, so it must be like this there and there as well is pretty endemic within the industry.
Yeah, and that's the thing, isn't it? Because 99% of hospitality is a fantastic place to work, and there aren't these issues. But they say the squeaky wheel is the one that gets oiled, and that's the fact that people that are shouting the loudest are being heard. What, in that case, do you think, to summarise, is needed for a great workplace culture?
So I think really, we do need to actually understand what we are and what we're trying to offer as employers, but really talk to our teams and engage with them and find out what it is that they want from a great employee experience. So, the idea of having a good workplace culture and a bad workplace culture, there might be some that, perhaps that 0.1% that, pretty much everyone would say is terrible. But different things are important to different people. So I think, talking to a team, finding out what's important to them, but also really trusting them and empowering them to have a kind of that sense of fulfillment and that sense of autonomy is really valuable to the vast majority of people, which is something that, in my experience of both operating and working with clients, it can be a key issue within businesses. And if you build that trust, people are happier and they're more productive as well. So I think that's one really key thing that organizations can focus on to be able to retain their talent. And by doing that, you get the best ideas as well, because the management team doesn't have all the good ideas. I hope that's not a new piece of news for anyone watching this, but being able to really draw on the talents of all of the team will produce better results in the long run as well.
Absolutely. I totally agree. And thank you for sharing your thoughts. Adam, it's always a pleasure to speak to you. And I hope that anybody out there, if they've got any questions about staff engagement and about that sort of organisational culture, they'll get in touch with you. Thank you so much for spending the time to come and chat with me on Hospitality Talks.
Thank you. It's great to see you again. Take care.
Thank you.